Thanks everyone for being here. I know it's the last talk of the day, so yeah, thank you for coming. My name is Brian. I am a lead software engineer at Fundrise. If you haven't heard of Fundrise, we are the premier alternative investment platform, and we have investments in things like real estate, venture capital, and private credit. So today we're going to be talking about team performance and how we measure that. And just I don't know, we're a smaller group, so I just want to make sure that everybody gets the most out of this talk. So I kind of want to first start by, I don't even know if we need the mic because there's only so many of us. But just go around and I want to see like kind of what your outcome is for trying to use metrics, because metrics is really just data at the end of the day, but if we don't know what we're getting to at the end, then we don't know what to measure first. So we can use a mic, or if someone just wants to give a couple examples, that'd be great. Anybody? Sure.
How you doing? Dave Thatcher. I'm at Realtor.com. So I'm actually a staff engineer on our mobile platform team, but our team has taken on a leadership role within the mobile community, or across the organization, I should say. So regardless, we're constantly trying to define what is success for not just our team, but like any of the leads within any of the teams, since we're kind of a horizontal team, hitting all those different, going across all those verticals, right? So I'm trying to define like what does success mean for another team member's growth, right? Or when they, how are they providing value outside of just, obviously quality code and things like that? Like what are they bringing to the table, and how can we continue to grow them? And is there a way to measure that, right?
So looking for developer performance, or
developer, like developing developers, right?
okay.
So if we can figure that out.
Anybody else? What are they looking to achieve?
My name is Chuck. Up until recently, director of engineering at Fundrise, working with Brian. Recently left to pursue a new opportunity, but in my mind, when I think about productivity metrics and developer metrics, it kind of falls into two categories. One is like your app health, delivery, quality, velocity, kind of the, I guess what I'll call hard metrics that, like, are we doing our job? Are we hitting our goals as a team? But then there's also, just as important in my mind, are the sort of softer metrics like morale, sentiment, developer experience, things that lead to retention and longevity, and just generally being a good place to work. But then, of course, the tricky part is nailing down exactly what things you want to index on in each of those two categories. But that's one thing I'm looking forward to hopefully getting some new ideas about today with all of you.
Great, thank you. Maybe one more, and then we can. Or not. That's fine. So.
I have one more, just like
sure.
Just how do we measure outside of like traditional DORA metrics, right?
Traditional
DORA, like your
mm-hmm.
kind of like state of DevOps is where we end up, but like we're trying to apply that model across the org.
Okay. I will also say, like, I'm not the expert in metrics. I'm learning like everyone else. So we'll have a good discussion. I can give you my success stories and failures, but I won't have all the answers today. So.
Well, I expect all the answers, right? And I'm going to measure you on that. So.
I mean, is anybody currently tracking any metrics for their teams? Like, show of hands, anybody? Yeah. Do you find success in doing that? Do you feel confident in your metrics? It could be better. Or I guess maybe talk about your challenges and frustrations with your metrics.
Yeah, though, one thing that I try to push on, when I'm trying to push on product is for is the kind of like walk back of what kind of things they want to track based upon the experience they're trying to get. Because I feel like we just fire everything through analytics, and it's not really telling a story, just telling you how many people have gotten to the screen. And it's better if you would say, okay, what was the drop off? What was the adoption of that specific like action that the user took? And that's more of a better metric to me than just volume on a certain screen and they clicked a certain button.
No, it makes sense. Anybody else? Okay. Let's see. So, go for it.
If you need another perspective, I can give you one, but I'm not someone who sets up the metrics or anything. I'm a senior engineer on a team, but like whatever senior means kind of thing. Like I've been here for a while, or I've been coding for about 13 years. And so I don't know. The thing, I guess, from my perspective is like I'm kind of here infiltrating the other side and seeing what you're all looking for, and also kind of thinking like going to put some. Hope the idea was to put some ideas in my back pocket to bring up later if I ever get to some kind of position like that. So, but one thing I did want to mention though, when you asked what tools or what are you using to track, I know that our company uses I'm not. Jellyfish is a tool that people use to look at numbers and junk, and I think that like you're saying, like what are you trying to get out of it or whatever, and I think that kind of stuff's just dangerous because it doesn't tell you the context of anything.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, and I'm not calling out anybody. This is like examples that I've thought of is like you could have a high velocity person and they look good on the numbers on paper, but what's going to actually be happening is they're asking everybody on the team to help them with their points, and then everyone else is getting held back, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And so it could look like somebody's like super high performer and everyone else sucks and they're your main person, when actually all the other leaders or all the other people are helping this junior kind of thing, or they might not even be junior, they just kind of are in there, and then you're just like everybody's helping this person and now they're being held back kind of thing. So like that's why I'm interested in like metrics and KPIs and stuff, seeing kind of like where people might be going if they're aware of this idea. I mean, they have to be, but yeah, that's all.
No, I mean that makes a lot of sense. Like developer productivity metrics are I don't know, they're dangerous. They can point your developers in the wrong direction. I don't use them personally. I look at maybe more like whole team metrics, like metrics that deal with GitHub and how the team is working together to merge pull requests. So like an example would be, we have a 2 reviewer system for all our PRs, like a lot of people do. And I had a hunch that a developer was kind of slow to getting to his reviews done, and that's holding code up. He would always get really focused in his work, and he wouldn't really remember to review other people's PRs. So like using the GitHub API, you can check and see when someone responds to their request for PR, and I could see that like he was lagging in those areas. So I can help him improve in that area, but that doesn't make him a bad developer. It's just pushing the team ahead though, because you're identifying like those bottlenecks in the system. So like the goal for me there was to make sure that code is moving forward, it's getting through and it's getting merged, and I found a way through the data to get that improvement.
I just wanted to share a few like real life stories about like metrics KPIs of developers and something that at least I don't know how to measure. Like whenever our architecture or whoever from management, really high level management, writing the topic like, hey, let's make some KPI for developers. For example, how many commits you did check your statistics in GitHub, check your amount of bugs, amount of tickets you fixed. Like, I'm so afraid of hearing that. Like, it doesn't matter at all how many fixes, how many bugs. Like, sometimes we can make correlation, but we are all human, we are all different. We have like all of us has different styles of working. I have really great developer, and I know that he can just if I will give the feature for him, he will make only one task per week per sprint, but that task would be like finished like perfectly, implemented perfectly. But I have another developer who likes to post the comments on every single commented line, on every single, I don't know, spaces or something like that. And if we will look into the statistics in GitHub, I will see one person that has like 1 or 2 commits per week or per month or something like that, and another who just, performance, and like from the like just numbers perspective, it is not something like I would use to just measure. And another point that's like at least I take into account when I'm seeing like performance or not performance, it is involving in discussions. For example, we have a bi-weekly meeting where we all of developers, like Android developers, iOS developers, like we have that per platform. We just get together and discuss some of the Android platform specific topics. Like, for example, do we need to refactor something? Do we need to check all of the latest, I don't know, Android 16 topics? Do we need to change our architecture? Something like that, architecture topics. And on like how I understand that developer is like good or not good or bad, but like on I'm taking into account how involved every developer in that discussion to all of the discussions that we have. I know that there are a lot of developers who might saying that, oh my gosh, there are a lot of meetings. I don't want to have another one. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But in most cases, the developers who really cares, who really high performance, in a lot of cases, they are so involved in a lot of discussions that we have in the architecture meetings, stand-ups, or something like that. And I don't know how to measure that, like to check amount of words someone say, like, yeah.
No, yeah, I mean that definitely makes the metrics a little harder. Going back to like lines of code or commits and things, I don't know. I'd find those as like very like toxic metrics, and they don't really represent your developers. But maybe something a little bit more abstract, like how many features that they completed that sprint, or something where it's like the end goal is what work they're putting out as output, and not just like PR and code, because that can really be gamed, and we know that doesn't really help. But I think upper management and leadership is always looking for numbers to point to, and that's just I don't know, it's like an old fallacy of our business, and it'll be around for a while, but that's not an accurate measurement to go by. So, Chuck, did you have something for? Thank you.
I wanted to add on to the previous 2 comments insofar as I like that we're sort of shifting the conversation from individual metrics to team metrics, because I think that's the better way to go. But I also wanted to point out that in my experience, any metric can be gamed, which is kind of what you were getting at with the story points, right? Even at the team level, one of my favorite metrics, or my least favorite metrics that I like to pick on is code coverage. And I know it's become very common to measure your code coverage as an indicator of quality of the code base. I think code coverage is a little bit of a bullshit metric, and the reason I say that is because it's easily gameable. You can have a test that will cover certain numbers of lines of code, but not necessarily give you valuable feedback about whether or not it is correct. I think Kent Beck said it best when he said, being proud of 100% code coverage is like being proud of reading every line in the newspaper. Some are more important than others. And so it's like, you've got to take this pragmatic approach, but that also makes things inherently harder to quantify, I think.
No, those are very good points. All right. did you have a sure?
I mean, I can say on my team, we've we spend a lot of time. Well, I shouldn't say a lot of time. Every week we measure or every sprint we measure our sprint health, right? And what does that mean? So our sprint health is, there's some basic metrics: how many members were there, how many vacations, yada yada, right? So, and it kind of goes against our projected velocity versus our actual velocity, scope. How much scope creep did we have? And then most importantly, like our comments at the end, right? Like it was a tough release process, or this happened or that happened, and then kind of taking that and taking an objective and a subjective approach for our own personal team to be like, yeah, our sprint health, and for the most part, it's a pretty accurate measurement, right? So when things are good, we're 95% is healthy. The last 3 sprints, we've been at like 70%, and we've all felt it, right? And what's really helped us though, as far as measurement's concerned, or applying application of that measurement, is then communicating that up the chain to whoever needs to hear it, right? So we're very open about our state of just our state of our own personal health, and as that relates to the health of our team, and then the health of the org and everything else, since it all bubbles up. But anyway, that's been helpful, like just tracking your own personal health.
Does anyone have any, any tools or frameworks they've used to help them track metrics or, share the data in some way?
Google Sheets.
Spreadsheets?
Google Sheets, yeah,
Google
that's
Sheets.
it. That's it. That's what we got.
About the tools, recently, a few months ago, I think, our architecture, I don't know, either he made it because he wants to do that, or he was asked, I don't know. We are using our work, Azure DevOps, all of the stuff, like Teams, boards, everything. And he created a board, like another board, in Azure board. He collects all of the statistics from GitHub, from all of the repos, from all of the teams, and just collects like how many time it takes to merge the pull request, how many comments some of the pull requests has, like what is the highest performance team because of pull request, because of, I don't know, something like that. When he presented to us, I was the first person who was like, why did you do that? It sounds interesting. Like, I understand the goal of that. I understand that he is a architecture nerd team. He is a lead of platform team. We have a dedicated platform team who are doing boring job, like creating the scripts, automation, etc., etc. So we might be focused on the features. So I understand they wanted to have a feedback from us, let's say, not only like that we will say something like, hey, you're doing great job. Like, they wanted to have some numbers, and not only numbers, but based on numbers, to understand at which repos they need to be focused, at which area of the app they might be focused. For example, after they collected all of those numbers, they like, our app has a multi-repo structure, so we have around 20 different repos. And after they collected all of those numbers, they just found the most problematic, let's say, most problematic repos, and they just grab a few team members. Like, our platform team are like 5 or 6 people for every platform. So what they did, they just grab 1 or 2 platform developer, get into that feature team for a couple sprints, and they work together. That platform guys work in that feature team, but they were focused not on the features, but were dedicated to just clean up all of that stuff, like dead code, or make some automations, maybe help with test coverage or something like that. And after that guys return back to platform team, they measure those numbers again, and that's how, like, it is a process. And technically it worked. So just an example.
Cool. Yeah, other tools that we've used are just like the Play Store for different information or Datadog. We use Datadog to track like our CI/CD processes, and we can see the metrics there to see what we can improve on. We spend a lot of time improving build times and things like that, and we use a lot of those to point us in the right direction of what maintenance work we need to do. We're a very small team at Fundrise. We only have about 5 engineers, so we are mixed, core and feature, and we really take responsibility for the whole app. So those metrics help us, choose the right like technical improvements to work on as well. I know. Any other questions about metrics?
I can share the funny metrics. On one of the company where I worked, when we had a Christmas party, New Year's party, there were celebrations and highlighting the most performance people in the company, and there were one of the contests, let's say, the QA who found the most biggest amount of the bugs gets 1 day of vacation for free, just because he found the biggest amount of issues. I was like, really? You will create a ticket for every single line, for every single pixel? Yeah, it worked like that.
Yeah, definitely incentivizing developers to create their own bugs is not good. But yeah, that's why we stay away from team metric or individual metrics and only use team metrics. But yeah, all metrics can be gamed in the end. So.
Is there any story from anyone when, let's say, someone would say to developer, hey, if you will meet this, and this KPI, you will be promoted to next level? What the KPI should be? So why would developers meet those KPI? For what? Well,
As you know, a developer, I've yet to see a plan of KPIs or anything that I can align my goals with to get promoted in my entire career. I've never seen anybody lay out something that was a clear plan for promotion or anything, and it's always been me promoting myself when I move companies. So, yeah.
Yeah. Does anyone have a team that uses like an OKR system or an OKS system to give them more of a general goal or direction to go in? You guys do? How is that? Do you think that works, or do you think it's got issues?
It's a mixed bag, right? We're roughly 2,000 people. So you have to have high level goals, right? Certainly, and then you have different parts of where the organization that have their own individual goals, and then you're trying to do all that alignment, right? So with any goal, there's the potential for gamification, of course, right? For us, it's been a lot of working with our managers or direct managers to trying to find alignment where alignment makes sense, and as a team trying to meet those goals. What I try to tell all the other developers that I interact with, which is most of them, I should say. If we don't meet company goals, then the company doesn't make money, and then we don't have jobs. So, I had my own business for 15 years, so I'm acutely aware of that, right? You're kind of only coasting if you're going downhill mentality. Mm-hmm. So you got to always be climbing. But for a lot of people, they don't take that level of ownership, right? And I don't expect anybody else to take that level of ownership. I just have that acute experience for it. So I'm trying to I try to get other people to understand that, like, there's, at the end of the day, the company needs to make money, and the way they make money is we all perform, and there has to be something to measure against in order for that to happen. Now, that doesn't motivate everybody for obvious reasons, right? It motivates me, so it's. But for others, I think the company goal, like, is just, you have to have something there, and then those individual motivations come from, like, I get a lot of satisfaction out of supporting my team, right? Out of supporting the other teams, out of communicating with the other teams, or helping the other teams communicate their successes and failures and growths and problems and everything else. And then that helps them grow. So that growth, how do I put this? Like, I forget what TED Talk I was listening to, but essentially it's a team member is going to leave, not necessarily for more money, but because they don't have anything else to learn, right? So if you want to keep somebody around, then they have to be learning something. What are they learning? So that's like the skill gap that you, as a manager or a leader, whether you're a tech lead or a team lead, an EM, a PM, whatever, right? You need to be looking for those areas of growth for your team members and juniors, so that they stick around.
Yeah,
right? And that's really the driving factor,
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know, motivating your team members to go towards certain goals could be a whole bunch of different issues on why they don't want to do that. I do think having OKRs or OCSs or whatever acronym you want to go with are very important for driving alignment. And I wouldn't punish anyone for not hitting an OKR or OCS, because it should be something that's like almost impossible to get to. You should be really trying, if you hit 80% of your goal, that should be a win and celebrated. And then it helps everyone get on the same page, because they can just look and see, like, if I have any downtime, like, instead of doing tech debt, I can go towards this goal. If the goal is to work on, something else, it gives everyone a mindset of, like, whatever they're picking up that day, whether it's a sprint task or a defect or something, like, if you have that capacity, you should be going towards the goal that we all decided was the most important. And maybe if no one's going towards that goal, there's a misalignment because they're not thinking that that's the most important. We have to get on the same page. But I think that's a big piece of it.
I mean, where I would add to that is, like, when you take that high level goal and then you boil it down to individual teams and parts of the organization, right? And this is where we get back to metrics. And you're creating your narrow alignment or your narrow piece for that, right? And then from there, you've got your epic, if you're using Jira, you've got your epic that has its now narrowly defined set of goals, right? It's very easy to take the parent term of whatever the OKR is called, tech modernization, right? And then add scope based off that parent goal, right? And then that adds to your metrics. So now it looks like you're not succeeding because you've added additional scope under the umbrella of the OKR, where instead you should be fighting back against whoever's telling you to add that scope, because it's outside of the narrowly defined scope that your team has implemented. So that's where success metrics, it's not just defining success metrics, but it's also protecting your success metrics, because other people are going to try and push stuff onto you all the time. So, I mean, at least that's what I've encountered. Right?
No, I mean, I could see that happening. And yeah, exactly. Like, you just wouldn't want to push back and let that epic get any larger, because then I don't know, you'd have to redefine your goal at that point, I think, because it's not achievable. But I mean, does everybody, I don't know what an OKR is or an OCS, or just making sure that people are aware. Does any have any questions about, I don't know, about that? Cool.
I think a lot of the metrics we started talking about at the beginning were like either individual or team, but very engineering specific metrics, like lines of code, number of commits, story points completed in a sprint, test coverage, which, by the way, to clarify my earlier comments, I'm a huge fan of testing and have done a ton of test-driven development and think there's a ton of value in it. I just question the value of the actual code coverage metric as a way of measuring that value. But to me, like, these are all intermediate metrics that ultimately we need to be able to map to the business value that's getting created, the customer value that's getting created, because at the end of the day, those are the metrics that really matter. How much money did this feature generate, or how much money did paying down this tech debt or speeding up our CI pipeline save? And again, I think those are things that are better measured at the team level and really have more meaning and value, not just to your team, but to the company as a whole. And so if you are going to use some of these intermediate metrics, I think it's good to always try and connect them to the larger one, the company-wide metric, as like, okay, well, we care about this because it's going to get us to here.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. At Fundrise, we do a lot of kind of decision making before we pick up a new feature or even propose a new feature. And one of those metrics is ROI, and making sure that what we're about to go spend time and build is worth it for us in the company, and we should make sure that the time is worth building and not going off and just creating for no reason. Engineers like to create a lot of things, and sometimes they don't actually bring value to the business. It's just fun. So
not only that, but you have to consider not just the cost and the time it takes to build it, but then to maintain it, to troubleshoot it if it doesn't work, to educate your users about how to adopt it. And that's something that I've spent a lot of time working with like junior engineers to try and help them understand. When you think about, oh, hey, we could do this thing this way, and we get, it's only going to take me a day to write it. Yeah, well, how long is it going to take your two teammates to review it? And then how long is it going to take QA to test it? And then how long is it going to take to actually get it out into production? And then how long is it going to take to set up monitoring for it to be able to understand if it's working or not? That's actually how much it costs to build your feature, your idea. And so developing that sort of big picture mindset, I think it can be helpful too.
Chuck, do you have any tools to gather those metrics before you make a decision?
Not really. Spreadsheets.
Spreadsheets.
Well, so the other thing I'll say about like the intermediate metrics and sort of the comments about like pulling all these stats from GitHub, and I think inherently they don't necessarily have a lot of value in a vacuum, but the one way that I have used them in the past that I think is beneficial is to actually, you can look for anomalies, like if all of a sudden the number of commits for a certain team doubles or halves, then it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to set an objective value that like, oh, I need these commits to be this number per sprint for this size of a team. But if you see a sharp deviation, then it's like, oh, okay, maybe something's going on here that's worth looking into.
I would say again, I can only speak about myself and my team, but what's helped us specifically is making sure that we're assigning point values, so to speak, based off of complexity, not time, right? So like we've all worked on code that takes, it's a one-line change, but requires sign-off from every single team and requires tons of observability and blah, 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 right? That's not a 1-point ticket, right? That's a 3-point ticket or a 5-point ticket, right? And there's those huge commits that's just cleanup, right? It's 20,000 lines. I mean, we just removed the tool that was a 100,000 line deletion, right? It's like 2 points, because it didn't do anything. It was just getting rid of it, right? So we also, making sure that our ticket scopes are always no larger than 3 points, like for cognitive complexity and things like that, so you can really understand what we're doing. But just aligning, if you're going to assign a number to something, like assign it based on the complexity of the task and not necessarily the size of it, so to speak, right? Or it's almost like assigning risk value to it, as opposed to time value. Because time, I mean, it doesn't mean anything. Like if it takes you 2 weeks to do something, but like you did it right, or it takes you a day and did it wrong, and it costs you the company $5 million. I mean, I've definitely logged out 200,000 people before, and
I'll do the. I'll put the other side. I do use time-based story points, and I mean everyone's use case is different. I don't have to get 5 different teams to sign off on the one ticket. But I did find that I had some developers like hiding behind story points. So if they put something at like a 3 or a 5, they could hide, and they were lower performing engineers. So they could say like, oh, it took me a while because I've got this 5, I'm really working on it, and days would go by, and like the ticket wouldn't move. So I moved to a time-based system where I want to see progress in their tickets on a daily basis. So like maybe a 1 is it definitely moves into review that day. 2, it could be a day, and a 3 is like maybe a day and a half. But then I know and I'm expecting those tickets to move when I do need to kind of keep an eye on lower performers, and it gives a very easy indication like how they're doing, and I have that expectation. And sometimes it slips, and sometimes that doesn't always happen. But setting that expectation based that way helps a lot to keep an eye on those. Definitely in a remote environment as well.
yeah, no, I mean, I definitely understand that perspective, and it's like we have other teams that run on the time-based model because that's what works better for them, right? For those exact reasons you're talking about. Like my team's the platform team, the mobile platform team. So most of our work, since again it touches horizontals, is like, or is a horizontal work has like we don't do anything unless we spike it first, right? So there's anywhere from two days to a sprint and a half worth of just spike work, documentation, finding stakeholders, finding like who is involved in this, because that's a whole nother problem, is like defining who's involved, right? But regardless, and then from there, it's now let's get to the nitty gritty and let's see what we can accomplish. So time boxing something would never work for us. It has to be on a complexity model. But others, some of the feature teams, it's the exact opposite, right? It's like it can be time boxed, and and that works really well for them, particularly with remote workers, and we have a heavy contractor load right now, so that works well for them too. But
I mean, it's good to be able to identify, when something's not working and changing when needed. Like, does anyone else have experience with needing to, change the way they do things or use story points in a different way? Has anyone gotten into trouble just maybe trying to stay confined to like a certain guideline that they were given?
Yeah, I think in our team, like we never go above 8 in terms of story points, because like even 8 is a stretch, because that means that you need to break it up a little bit into like smaller size chunks. But yeah, we just try to make sure things are like incremental, so we can do a little bit of work, ship that, because you don't want to get to the end and like you're just like grinding against this big gigantic story that's taking forever to ship, and you're not really getting any customer value from it. So we just try to break things up as much as we can.
Yeah. No, I don't go above a 3. I won't let them. Like, if you have to break it down that far, then you just know, you have to learn a bit more about your feature and what is required, and then it will, it'll create smaller PRs that'll review faster, and it'll just get things moving a whole lot faster. Anyone else?
how often do you find yourself having other people accountable for that?
To the whatever the day and a half rule. So I actually it's very cumbersome, but I will use Jira sometimes, or also track it in a spreadsheet of how that's moving. And if I do see it's slipping, at least it gives me an indication like, oh, the PR took a little longer to review. So then I'll look at the PR and see what happened. And maybe they got a comment that they had to like rewrite the whole PR. And then I will sit down at our next one-on-one and talk about it. So it's not like a hard accountability, but we definitely talk about when they slip in those metrics just so they can improve. And if something happened, we talk about it that way. It's kind of like a small retro, I guess. I don't lead full team retros anymore. I didn't find them very effective, but having these little one-on-one conversations about what we can do better the next time on a ticket is very helpful. Cool. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, everybody.